let's get into a little football. So NCAA. So the SEC is basically voting to reopen, schools. So from Josh Berriman from WAFB, he's stating in his article that administrators from every SEC school are set to vote Friday, May 22nd, on whether or not to reopen team facilities for voluntary workouts. He also added, if the vote passes, student athletes would be allowed to return to the facilities early as June 1st. If not, the lockout would be extended. The decision stems from many throughout amongst college football who are optimistic about the normal start time for next season. So basically, the SEC are coming together to vote whether they want, team facilities to reopen for voluntary workouts, which is weird. I would assume that they would have to follow the school's direction in reopening, but if that's not the case, he didn't add that much detail into it. But apparently the athletic section are able to, or it says administrators. So I guess the schools are going to be voting in the SEC whether they want to reopen, and that includes team facilities. So that is this Friday. So we'll keep a close eye on that. Again, if the vote passes, student athletes will be allowed to return to facilities as early as June 1st. So that's huge for college football if that passes. That would be a good sign for the college football season. All the information that we got right now doesn't look good for college football season. But again, after Friday, we will have an answer, at least on the SEC's front, barring any sudden spikes or second waves for this COVID-19. Hopefully that's not the case. But again, I will be keeping a close eye on that this Friday. And then I talked about this last week. Tualia Tagovailoa, he was thinking about transferring. He entered the transfer portal. He ended up transferring. So he decided to transfer to Maryland, which is good because it's not Auburn. You don't want to transfer from Alabama to Auburn. It's not a good look. But he ended up transferring to Maryland, and Michael Wayne Bratton from SaturdayDownSouth.com was able to interview his father. So according to his father, the decision was based on not having an opportunity to compete for playing time this offseason. In his article, he also added, but my boys are competitive, and Leah, which is Tualia's nickname, is such a competitive kid, and he just wanted an opportunity to compete. He was told that he was going to come in and compete and didn't really get that opportunity, so he wanted to use spring to do that. But the COVID-19 thing going on, he didn't really have that opportunity to compete. So I guess the only person that he would be competing against, or he'd be competing against two, because now Alabama only has 3 scholarship quarterbacks, would be Wilson and Young. So you would think that Wilson has the leg up on Young and, Tagovailoa at the time. But now that Tualia is transferring, Wilson's kind of the leader right now, unless he screws up, major, then Bryce Young would be that guy, which I anticipate Bryce Young being the quarterback for Alabama at some point of the year, because the dude is box office. Again, I wasn't a big believer until I seen him play in person. The dude is legit. So Alabama, again, finds another quarterback to lead that team, and Bryce Young is going to be a stud. Also in NCAA recruiting, the number 4 receiver for the 2021 class chooses Oklahoma over Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, Clemson, and more teams. So that receiver is Mario Williams, 5'10", 165. Currently goes to Plant City High School in Plant City, Florida. Another weapon for Lincoln Riley and that offense in Oklahoma in the Big 12. It is very surprising what Lincoln Riley's been able to do as the head coach for Oklahoma. 3 straight playoff appearances, 2 Heisman winners. One, I don't think he was a runner-up, but he was a Heisman finalist in Jalen Hurts. And then he rebuilds the whole. He has all the tools again to make another playoff run this year. or if the year comes by, their starting quarterback will be Spencer Rattler, who I've seen a lot of. It's going to be a great quarterback. My dark horse for the Heisman this year. And Lincoln Riley, on top of Spencer Rattler, who's a 5-star quarterback, number 1 quarterback coming out of 2019 class, who basically redshirted this past season under Jalen Hurts. That same class had 3 5-star receivers come in. So they're getting another receiver on top of that. So the 3 5-star receivers were Theo Weiss, Jalen Hazelwood, and the other name kind of skips me, but adding another receiver, a top 5 receiver in the 2021 class to go to Oklahoma, Spencer Rattler, Lincoln Riley are going to have all the weapons needed to be, again, a dynamic offense in the Big 12. Man, I am excited to see Oklahoma this year. I may go to a couple games this year, but I'm just excited to see them progress and see how Lincoln Riley takes this offense to the next level. Because this honestly might be the best quarterback that Lincoln Riley has had in his offense. Again, Baker Mayfield, walk-on. Kyler Murray was a transfer. He was a good quarterback. Those guys went number 1 overall, so not to say that they're bad, but when it comes to intangibles, Spencer Rattler, again, I've seen him play, the arm strength, the football IQ, the athleticism. He's the best quarterback that Lincoln Riley has had in his offense. So I'm excited to see Oklahoma tear it up in the Big 12 again and make another playoff run. So big up to Lincoln Riley for getting these skill position guys to go to Oklahoma. They've had, some of the most dynamic offenses in the NCAA these past few years. So Lincoln Riley, man, he's definitely going to be a hot coach when it comes to NFL vacancies in upcoming years. But hopefully he stays at Oklahoma. It's always good to see college football, do well. But, when that money starts calling, somebody has to pick up. So excited to see the progress for Oklahoma and Lincoln Riley. And then lastly, with the NCAA, there's been a ruling that they cannot limit school expenses. So appeals court upheld colleges can pay for student athlete school expenses. According to Dan Murphy at ESPN in his article, a federal appeals court upheld a ruling Monday that allowed colleges to pay for any education-related expenses for student athletes in the future. So Judge Claudia Wilkins decided in March 2019 that the NCAA rules that limit what athletes can receive from their schools violated antitrust law. Wilkins limited her ruling to include only benefits related to education, such as covering costs for computers, science equipment, musical instruments, and other similar items. She wrote that the NCAA's unique business model justified some limits. Lastly, the NCAA appealed her decision by arguing that its current rules, which allow schools to offer athletes only scholarship and additional costs of attendance stipend, were allowed under federal law. Monday's ruling against the NCAA from the appeals court marked another significant step in the ongoing debate about fair compensation for college athletes. And again, I talked about this last week. NCAA does not want to pay athletes. They're trying to give just enough to where the whole thing just doesn't blow up. We're heading towards a boiling point with the NCAA. This is not going to be able to occur anymore, especially with the G League taking, not taking, but a lot of the star basketball players are starting to decide to go G League. They're getting money. They're getting endorsement deals instead of going to college, not being able to get endorsement deals and not being able to get money. And a lot of those athletes, the top athletes in basketball, do a one and done anyway. So it's not like a lot of them are trying to go there for 4 years for the education. Now, if they do, that's fine. But a lot of them are one and dones when it comes to the top prospects for basketball. So the NCAA, we're heading towards a boiling point. I can't say it enough. It's just sickening that the NCAA is trying to find ways not to let the athletes get money. The athletes deserve the money, especially if they're in a sport where they're generating, billions of dollars for their schools, conferences, and the NCAA. This is crazy. I don't want to call it robbery, but you could essentially call it that, because that's what they're doing. They're pretty much pimping out the athletes and trying not to give them anything, and just trying to give them like a little carrot just to stay there. As soon as there's an alternative for the NCAA, they're going to be in trouble. If you have not watched my video on the Power Five, potentially leaving the NCAA, I'll post it right here. So if you look here, if you're watching on YouTube, click on that button right there, and you'll hear my take on the Power Five leaving the NCAA. I think it's bound to happen. Maybe not this year, but it will be once everything like kind of normalizes with the COVID-19 thing. Man, this is insane. So again, another significant step in the right direction for student athletes. They need to be compensated fairly. Thanks for stopping by. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button for more fire sports takes. And for those of you who are on the go, make sure you subscribe to our full show, which airs every Thursday on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and a bunch more. Until then, I'm chucking it up, and I'll see you guys next time.